Hey guys, Sterling Lujan here, Psychologic Anarchist, where we are trying to create more compassionate and loving anarchist communities. Today we're going to discuss psychiatry a little bit, and I'm going to divulge a little bit of my background. So when I was 16, 17 years old, maybe even a little younger, I was diagnosed with ADD, or attention deficit disorder. Now when I was diagnosed with ADD, I was prescribed an amphetamine compound called Ritalin. Now today there's different types of amphetamine compounds for children who are diagnosed with ADD. They either have Adderall, Ritalin, or various other chemical compounds that are essentially a cocktail of amphetamines. So, and when I say amphetamines, these compounds are stimulants. They are very, very closely, chemically, structurally similar to methamphetamine. So we're essentially feeding children these compounds, and that's what I was given when I was younger. Now this is just my anecdotal experience, but I want to talk a little bit about what this compound actually did to me as a child. So when I was in school, it's true, I was not attentive. I wasn't trying to internalize or enjoy what the schooling environment was trying to feed me. I was very interested in my own endeavors. I was very interested in my own creativity. I took my time to write on my own accord. I read what books I wanted to write. They did not intrigue me. They did not interest me at all. So they assumed that I was a problem child and I just didn't want to pay attention, and I needed this chemical lobotomy essentially in the form of an amphetamine compound. Now, when children are given these compounds like Ritalin or Adderall, they oftentimes have a paradoxical effect. Rather than being sped up and hyperactive, children often get numbed, and it gives the appearance that they're paying attention in school. This is what happened to me. I looked like I was paying attention because I was so hyper-focused and anxiety-driven on the stimulant that I could not pay attention. Or it looked like I was paying attention, but I could not pay attention to anything going on, not externally and not internally. I was just sort of glued to the front of the school. It was one of the most horrendous feelings that I remember ever having. So we really need to, and this is just a bit of this, we really need to stay away from giving these compounds out to children, because it is, besides being ironic in the sense that we're feeding children drugs that a few molecules apart are completely illegal and shunned and demonized in society. That is the methamphetamine compound. But really what I want to delve into is this idea that children are prescribed this medication, especially boys. I was prescribed this medication because it was assumed that I had a problem with my brain, that I had this quote-unquote mental disorder. Now the interesting thing about these diagnoses, they're not based on hard science. Now, what they'll tell you about ADD, ADHD is that there's a problem with the brain activity in the frontal lobes. That's just one of the many assumptions about ADD, ADHD. And these all, and different kinds of assumptions that are similar, apply to all mental illnesses which are diagnosed via the DSM. So, but interestingly enough, most places, most online medical dictionaries, most online hospitals say specifically that there is no known cause and that a multitude of factors cause ADD, ADHD. And because of this, in the psychiatrist's office, ADD and ADHD is diagnosed symptomatically. What that means is what your behavior looks like, what your thinking looks like, what your feeling looks like. So the psychiatrist will essentially go through this list based on different axes in the DSM and determine completely subjectively if you have a sickness. There is no objective measure in the clinic that will determine if a person has ADHD or ADD. There's no blood test. There's no type of test whatsoever. And the really scary thing about this is after they assume that a child has ADD or ADHD because they're not following the program at school, because they're not paying attention to the curriculum, they think that they're diseased. So this is what happened to me. They thought that I was diseased. They gave me this pill. it disturbed me. It almost acted like a chemical lobotomy, and it messed me up pretty bad. So my idea about mental illness is that mental illness is a social myth. It's not a real disease. It's just specific behaviors that either psychiatrists or society at large disagrees with or does not appreciate. So essentially, people who are different, or they are what's been called psychovariant or neurodivergent, have been called illnesses. So it kind of reminds me of the situation with the X-Men, because the X-Men, right, the mutants, are neurologically divergent and genetically different, that they are somehow evil in society. So that acts as a pretty good metaphor about how society and psychiatry views people who may be a little bit more rebellious, anti-authoritarian, or who are just really creative in their own right, and they don't fit well in the public schooling and indoctrination centers. So, and I'm sure that there are some of you guys that can empathize with me who are watching this video right now who have been treated the same way and who have been given amphetamine compounds. So the overarching message here is that any of you parents who have children, especially if they're children who have intellectual gifts or who have been referred to as ADD, ADHD, or fall on the autism spectrum, the autism disorder spectrum, these children, these beautiful children, are not sick to any degree. There's nothing at all wrong with these children other than the fact that they don't fit into the mold of society, and they have problems balancing their own thought processes and their own way of being with how society at large, with how educators, with how doctors, with how parents view that their behavior should be. So instead of poisoning these children with various amphetamine-type compounds or trying to discipline them and get them to fall in line without question, instead we should embrace this mentality. We should look at these children as future leaders of the world, as powerful people, as agents of change, as people who can come in and help, hopefully, augment culture and make the world a better place overall. So these are just a few thoughts I had today. We'll go in more into the DSM and some of the neurology behind what psychiatry attempts to do in this whole medical model issue. So anyway, I just wanted to make this video real quick and as clearly as possible. But anyway, I'm going to start producing more videos with Psychologic Anarchist, so I hope you guys will subscribe and continue to follow me in my posts on Facebook and the Facebook page Psychologic-Anarchist. Thank you.